Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going to do something a little bit different.
A little bit spooky, maybe.
A little bit spooky, a little bit thrilling. We're stepping away from, the usual academic papers and the deep tech analysis. We are diving headfirst into a story that is, it's a genre-bending roller coaster, frankly.
It really is.
I want you to imagine, if you will, a Venn diagram.
Okay, I love a good Venn diagram. I'm with you.
I knew you would be. So picture 3 circles. In the first circle, you've got a classic Gothic ghost story. I'm talking creaking floorboards, mysterious cold spots, a tragic figure from the past, walk in the halls.
Right, the whole haunting of Hill House vibe, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. Now, in the second circle, completely separate, you have a high-stakes, think Silence of the Lambs style FBI procedural.
Okay, so a totally different genre.
Totally different. We're talking serial killers, tactical teams, criminal profiling, the whole works.
Which is usually on a completely different shelf in the bookstore.
Usually. But then, for the third circle, you have this messy, complicated, romantic drama.
And it involves identical twins.
Involves identical twins, which just adds another layer of complexity.
It's quite the intersection. And usually when you try to blend genres like that, horror, a thriller, a romance, it can get incredibly messy.
Oh, it can be a disaster.
Yeah, the tone can be all over the place. But the source material we're looking at today, Dark Dreamer, it somehow manages to weave these threads together into this very specific, very atmospheric narrative.
So to really set the scene for you and for our listeners, I want you to just imagine this. We're leaving the studio behind.
Where are we going?
We're going to the coast of Maine, specifically to an island called Islesboro, and it's November.
Ooh. And for anyone who hasn't been to coastal Maine in November, let me just paint that picture for you.
Please do.
The tourists have all gone home. The lobster shacks are all boarded up for the winter. The summer cottages are shuttered tight. It's gray. It's bone-chillingly cold.
That damn cold.
The wind is just howling off the Atlantic, and the snow is starting to pile up. It's not pretty, fluffy snow. It's wet and heavy.
It's that kind of cold that just gets right into your marrow,
Exactly. And right in the middle of this frozen, isolated landscape sits this old Victorian home. It's known as Dark Harbor Cottage.
It's beautiful, I'm sure, in that architectural sense, but it just has that brooding energy. You look at it and you just know things have happened there.
Which is the perfect backdrop for our mission today, I think. We're not just, recounting a plot.
Yeah.
We're really trying to analyze the intersecting lives of these 3 very distinct women who are brought together by this house.
Right.
We've got Rowe Devlin, who is our protagonist, and then her neighbors, the really enigmatic twins, Phoebe and Cara Temple.
And our goal here really is to unpack how a century-old haunting in that cottage connects to a modern-day FBI manhunt.
And how these women navigate a dynamic that's as dangerous emotionally as it is physically and, paranormally.
So let's look at the stack of sources we've got. We're working primarily from a really detailed narrative account, and it's centered on Rowe and Phoebe.
And what I really appreciate about this material is that it's all about the clash of perspectives. It's not just one person telling us, hey, ghosts are real.
Right. It's not a single narrator we have to just trust.
Exactly. The narrative doesn't give us one unreliable narrator. It gives us 2 opposing realities fighting for dominance.
So on one side, you have Rowe Devlin.
Right.
She is grounded. She's skeptical. She is a New Yorker through and through. She buys this house specifically because it's isolated. She wants peace and quiet.
She wants to be left alone.
And on the other side, you have Phoebe Temple. And Phoebe's reality is, it's frankly terrifying.
Yeah. She lives in a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead are porous, I guess is the word.
And she works secretly for the federal government because she can dream about murder victims.
So the hook here is just irresistible. You have this diehard skeptic moving into a famously haunted house.
Right next door to a woman who literally hunts serial killers in her sleep.
It creates this immediate friction, doesn't it? Rowe is trying to use logic and reason to explain things that are just fundamentally illogical.
While Phoebe is just trying to survive the trauma of experiencing things that, shouldn't even be possible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start digging into this. Let's start with our skeptic, Rowe Devlin. Because when I was first reading through the notes, I got a little confused about her profession. She moves into this clearly haunted house. Things start flying off the walls, and her reaction is just to rationalize it all away. What does she do for a living that makes her so cynical?
And that is the absolute best part. She is a professional horror writer.
You are kidding me.
Not at all. She writes bestsellers, vampires, zombies, the apocalypse. She spends her entire life inventing scary things for a living.
So you would think she would be the first person to say, oh, a cold spot, that's a ghost.
You would think, but it's actually the complete opposite. Because she creates this stuff, she knows how the sausage is made, so to speak.
She knows all the tricks.
Exactly. She calls her own books schlock. She uses terms like derivative crap. She thinks monsters are just things you invent to, pay the rent.
So when she sees a knife fly across her kitchen,
She doesn't think ghost. She thinks, oh, a weird physics anomaly, or I must be overtired, or the house is settling in a very aggressive way.
she has basically inoculated herself against believing in the supernatural because she sells it for 25 bucks a pop in hardcover.
It's kind of tragic, actually. She's killed her own sense of wonder.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But she's not just there for the spooky atmosphere, right? She's running away from something.
Oh, yeah. It's deeply personal. She's escaping a broken heart. And not just a simple breakup. It was a long, drawn-out, painful situation.
What happened?
She spent years pining after a married woman named Marion.
Oof. That's a tough one. The whole unrequited love for the unavailable friend situation.
Exactly. Marion was married, kept Rowe on the hook, used her for emotional support, but, never actually chose her.
Rowe was the safe friend, the shoulder to cry on.
Yeah. And eventually that just hollows you out. So Rowe is moving to Maine to basically lick her wounds and try to write again. She's got this massive writer's block.
And she buys Dark Harbor Cottage because it's cheap and it's remote.
And she views that haunted reputation purely as a marketing gimmick, something that kept the price way down.
Right. She's thinking, great, a bad reputation means a bargain for me.
Hmm.
It's a very New York real estate mindset.
I don't care if there were murders here. Does it have good light? And is it a good deal?
Pretty much. But she really should have checked the seller's history a little bit closer. The previous owner, a man named Jasper, he didn't just move out.
No, he fled.
Fled. Like left his toothbrush and ran.
Like ran for his life. The sources say he was practically driven out by the activity in the house. He was terrified.
And he tried to do something about it, didn't he?
He even attempted an exorcism. He brought in a priest, the whole 9 yards. And obviously it didn't work.
And Rowe knows all this. She's been told this by the real estate agent, but she just dismisses it.
She thinks Jasper was just unstable. Or maybe an alcoholic making things up. She walks into this house thinking she's going to renovate the kitchen and write her next bestseller, completely unaware that the house has other plans for her.
Okay, so that really sets the stage for Rowe, a cynical, heartbroken writer in a cheap, spooky mansion. And then we have the neighbors, the Temple twins. No, this isn't just, neighbors who borrow a cup of sugar. These two are a lot.
They are fascinating. They're a case study in codependency and contrast. Let's start with Phoebe Temple.
Okay.
She's described in the source material as having this very old-fashioned beauty. Rowe keeps comparing her to a pre-Raphaelite painting.
I know that term. I hear it in art history context, but paint the picture for me. What are we actually looking at?
Okay, so think of those old romantic paintings from the late 1800s. Women with incredibly long, wild, kind of crimped red hair.
Right. Very dramatic.
Very pale skin. They always look a little bit sad, maybe like they're about to faint or, drown beautifully in a river while holding flowers.
Okay, so she's not modern hot. She's tragic Victorian hot.
That is a perfect way to put it. She looks like she belongs in the 19th century, which, considering who's haunting the house next door, is actually very fitting.
And she has a cover story for what she does.
She does. She presents herself to the world as a forensic botanist. She tells people she analyzes pollen and spores for the FBI to help them solve crimes.
Which is a real job, isn't it? Forensic botany.
It is a real job and a fascinating one, but for her, it is a total fabrication, a complete lie.
So what's the reality?
The reality is she is a psychic medium. She sees dead people, to quote the movie, she actually references herself, but it's not a parlor trick.
No.
It's the result of a traumatic head injury and a coma she suffered years ago. It changed her brain.
And then there's the other sister, Cara, and she is the total opposite, right?
Completely. If Phoebe is the fragile, ethereal spirit, Cara is the shield. Cara is a music video producer. She spends half her time in LA dealing with rock stars and massive egos. She's tough.
And her style reflects that.
Totally. She wears designer clothes, and these custom Lachese cowboy boots are mentioned multiple times to really establish her style. She's pragmatic, she's grounded, she's the interface between Phoebe and the real world.
The sources mention they even sleep in the same bed when they're stressed.
They do. They live together in the family estate next door, and yes, when things get heavy, usually after Phoebe has had a particularly violent vision, they share a bed for comfort.
So Cara basically manages Phoebe's life to protect her from the trauma of her gift.
It's an incredibly tight, protective bond, almost to the exclusion of everyone and everything else.
So you have the cynic, Rowe, moving in next door to these mysterious sisters, and the meet cute, if you can even call it that, is actually triggered by Rowe's dogs.
Right. Roe has these two big Labradors, Jessie and Zoe, and apparently they're usually kind of unruly city dogs.
They jump on people, they bark, the usual.
But the very first time they run into the neighbor's yard, they completely change their behavior around Phoebe. They become submissive, calm, almost reverent.
What does Phoebe say about that?
She just says, "Animals are always civilized around me."
Which should be a huge red flag to a horror writer, honestly.
It really should be.
The animals love me in a weird, unnatural way.
That is page 1 of the Evil Neighbor Handbook.
It really is, but Rowe just thinks, wow, she's really good with dogs. But the real aha moment, or maybe the uh-oh moment, happens in Rowe's kitchen. This is a pivotal scene.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So Phoebe comes over, just a neighborly visit. She walks into Rowe's kitchen. Now, Rowe admits this kitchen is pretty dingy and needs a full renovation. It's not a welcoming space.
But Phoebe has a very strong reaction.
She walks in and is physically overcome. She grabs the counter to steady herself. She starts hyperventilating.
And she sees something.
She sees a vision of blood all over the floor, not just a little, but pools of it. And she faints dead away, just collapses. And Rowe, being Rowe, our skeptic, thinks a medical issue.
Exactly. She thinks, does she need some orange juice? To Rowe, this looks like a medical problem. Hypoglycemia, maybe epilepsy. She's worried, of course, but she's looking for a logical medical explanation.
But for the listener, and for Phoebe, this is confirmation.
It's the first real proof. Something violent and terrible happened in that kitchen. Phoebe is sensing that residual energy. It establishes immediately that Phoebe isn't just, a little sensitive. She's a lightning rod for whatever is in that house.
So Rowe is trying to be a good neighbor, dealing with the fainting spells, but the house itself starts acting up. And this is where her skepticism really starts to crack. It starts in the kitchen, doesn't it? That seems to be the epicenter.
It is. It's the heart of the haunting. Rowe starts experiencing what we'd probably call poltergeist activity, though the experts in the story correct that terminology later, specifically with knives.
Ugh, I hate this part. The knives won't stay still.
There's one really specific incident where Rowe puts a large carving knife on the counter. She turns her back for just a second to grab something else, and when she turns around...
It's not on the counter.
It's not on the counter. It's hovering, levitating in the air, about chest high.
Okay, stop right there. At that point, physics is broken. Logic is out the window.
And then it flies at her. It doesn't just drop to the floor. It is thrown with force, like an arrow.
And it hits the wall.
It embeds itself in the wooden wall behind her, quivering.
That is not the wind. That is not the old house settling. That is a weapon being thrown at you by something you can't see.
And Rowe reacts with anger, which is such an interesting character beat. She doesn't scream and run out the front door like a normal person.
No, she gets mad.
She yells at the empty room. She shouts, "This is my house now. Your days are numbered." It's a confrontation. She treats the ghost like a bad tenant she needs to evict.
That is very New York of her. Hey, I'm walking here. But it's not just the kitchen. There's also the ballroom. Who has a ballroom in their house, by the way?
Well, it is a Victorian mansion on an island full of old summer estates. But yeah, the ballroom.
What happens there?
She starts hearing things in the night, footsteps, someone crying. So she goes down to investigate. Again, brave or foolish, you can take your pick.
I'm going with foolish.
And she feels what she describes as a brooding malevolence. And then she is touched. An ice-cold hand on her cheek.
Okay, at that point, I am listing the house on Zillow. I am done. But Rose stays.
She stays.
And she decides to investigate. And this brings us to my absolute favorite duo in this entire story.
Yeah.
The Paranerds.
Ah, yes. Dwayne and Earl, the paranormal investigators of New England.
These guys are hilarious. They drive a beat-up old car with "Got Ghosts" bumper stickers. They reek of cheap cologne. They're clumsy.
But
they actually know their stuff, don't they?
They serve a really important function in the narrative. They're the comic relief, yes, but they're also the ones who provide the crucial lore.
They're not the Ghostbusters with proton packs.
No, not at all. They're more like plumbers who specialize in the dead. They come in with their EMF meters and their digital thermometers and they get to work.
And what do they find? What's their diagnosis?
They identify the entity. It's not a poltergeist, they say, because poltergeists are centered on a living person, usually a teenager. This is a classic haunting.
By who?
The ghost is known locally as the disappointed dancer. Her real name was Juliet Baker. She died in 1912.
And the story is just classic Gothic tragedy.
It really is. Juliet was set to announce her engagement at her 21st birthday ball, held in that very ballroom, but the fiancé never showed up.
He ghosted her, literally and figuratively.
He did. The next morning, Juliet was found dead in the snow outside the house. The official story at the time was that it was an accident. She wandered out in her grief and froze to death.
But Gawain and Earl have other theories.
They imply it might have been suicide or even something darker, that the story doesn't quite add up.
But here is where it gets really interesting. This is the big twist. They show Rowe a photograph of Juliet Baker from 1912. And Rowe looks at it and goes, wait a minute.
The resemblance is uncanny. Juliet Baker looks exactly like the Temple twins. Like she could be their sister. It's a perfect match.
And there's a specific detail that links them.
The necklace. In the photograph, Juliet is wearing this very unique Baroque pearl necklace. And it is the exact same necklace Phoebe Temple wears every single day.
So now we have a physical link. We have a genetic link. Rowe puts on her detective hat. She's not just a writer anymore. And she starts digging.
She finds a hidden compartment in an antique desk that was left in the carriage house.
Such a classic trope, isn't it? The secret drawer in the old desk.
But it totally delivers here. She finds a bundle of letters. They're from Juliet to her lover, a man she calls James.
And the content of these letters, they analyze Juliet's state of mind right before she died.
And she wasn't suicidal. She was confused and she was heartbroken, but she wasn't giving up. She writes about her father, Thomas Baker, threatening to withhold her dowry.
She thinks her father chased James away to keep the money.
Right. So Rowe connects this to the local historical society records. She goes to see the town historian, a Mrs. Chauncey, and they find a genealogy anomaly that just blows the whole thing wide open.
What do they find?
They discovered that the twins' great-grandmother, a woman named Anne Adams, was born 14 months after her documented father had died.
I'm no biologist, but
Yeah.
that's not possible.
Exactly. Biologically, that is impossible, unless the man on the birth certificate wasn't her real father.
So who was?
The implication, and the Old Town gossip seems to confirm it, is that Thomas Baker, Juliet's father, the man who owned Dark Harbor Cottage, had an affair with the neighbor, Verity Adams.
Who were the twins' ancestor?
Exactly, which means Juliet Baker and the twins' great-grandmother were half-sisters.
They are blood relatives.
Yeah.
The twins are the descendants of the illegitimate line of the family that owned the haunted house.
Precisely. And that pearl necklace. It probably wasn't stolen. It was likely passed down through that illegitimate line, maybe as a guilt gift from Thomas Baker or as a secret inheritance.
And this biological connection explains so much. It explains why Phoebe, specifically, acts as such a magnet for the activity in the cottage.
It's family business. It's a ghost with a grievance against her own bloodline.
So while Rowe is digging through dusty old desk drawers and uncovering this century-old family scandal, the story shifts gears in a massive way.
He really does.
Because we aren't just dealing with local ghosts anymore. We have to talk about Phoebe's real day job.
Right. And this is where the story pivots from, say, The Haunting to The X-Files.
We find out that Phoebe's forensic botanist job is a complete and total lie.
It's a necessary lie, though. A cover story.
It is. We learn that after her head injury and the coma, her brain chemistry changed. She could communicate with the dead, specifically murder victims.
They find her. They're drawn to her.
And at first, she and Cara tried to hide it, right?
Yeah.
They had this system where they pretended to be hikers who just kept stumbling upon bodies.
They did. They would go out and discover remains based on Phoebe's dreams. But the FBI agent on the case, a guy named Vernell Jefferson, he isn't stupid.
He connects the dots.
He realizes these two women are finding bodies across multiple state lines that no one else could find, often in places completely off the beaten path. He confronts them, and Project Golden was born.
Golden. That's her official FBI code name.
It is. And the FBI treats her like this incredibly fragile, high-value asset. They use the botany cover to protect her identity, but the source material hints at a much darker fear.
What are they afraid of?
They are terrified of the CIA, which they refer to as the company, finding out about her.
Because if the CIA finds out the FBI has a remote viewer who actually works,
They will want to weaponize her. They explicitly reference the old Stargate programs from the 80s, the psychic spy programs. Vernell Jefferson is trying to keep her for the Bureau, specifically for catching serial killers, but he's also trying to shield her from being disappeared into some black site intelligence program.
So to prove she's still effective, or maybe to test her limits, the twins are flown down to the FBI Academy at Quantico.
And you just have to imagine the culture shock here.
Oh, absolutely.
They're coming from this silent, snowy, isolated island in Maine, and suddenly they are on a massive military base. There's gunfire from the ranges, explosions from the training courses, guys in full tactical gear everywhere.
It's a complete sensory overload, especially for someone as sensitive as Phoebe.
Totally. And they bring her to this sterile, white room to meet a guy named Dr. Karnovich. Dr. K, they call him.
And this guy is the real deal in terms of parapsychology research.
He's not just there to ask her questions. He wants metrics. He wants hard data. So he starts with the classics. You know those cards you always see in movies? The Zener card.
Oh, yeah. The ones with the wavy lines, the star, the circle, like in the opening scene of Ghostbusters.
Exactly those.
Yeah.
The standard test for telepathy or clairvoyance. He sits her down, holds up a card facing away from her, and says, "What am I holding?" He does this over and over.
And statistically, if you're just guessing, you should get about 20% right just by pure luck.
Right. 1 in 5. Phoebe scores. Well, she scores 20%.
So she fails. She's statistically average. She bombs the test.
She fails hard. She has zero telepathic ability. She can't read his mind, and she can't see through the card. Dr. K is actually getting visibly frustrated. He's starting to think she's a fraud.
But then they switch protocols.
They do. They move to what's called psychometry.
Define that for us.
Psychometry is the alleged ability to read the history of an object just by touching it. The theory is that strong emotions, especially fear, pain, trauma, can leave a sort of psychic or energetic imprint on physical objects.
Like a recording on a cassette tape that only she can play back.
That's a great analogy. So instead of trying to read the doctor's mind, she's now trying to read the object's memory.
What do they give her?
He hands her a plastic hairbrush in a sealed evidence bag. It belonged to a murder victim. And the absolute second, she touches the handle through the plastic.
Everything changes.
Her whole physiology goes haywire. Her heart rate spikes. Her body temperature plummets. It's not a guess anymore. She's in it. She describes the girl brushing her hair. She describes the smell of the room. She describes the attacker coming up behind her in the reflection.
So she isn't guessing a star or a circle. She is reliving a memory that isn't hers.
That is chilling, isn't it? It's not a superpower. It's a curse. She has to experience the crime to solve it.
And the stakes get raised immediately after that. This isn't just testing anymore. There's a live case.
A woman named June Feldstein has been abducted from her home in Vermont.
And this is different for Phoebe. Usually, she dreams of the dead. They come to her after they've been killed to help find their bodies so their families can have some kind of closure.
But June Feldstein isn't dead yet.
How does Phoebe know?
She sees her in her visions in a cage, but June can't hear her. She can't interact with Phoebe's spirit.
That's the tell. If the spirit can't talk back, the person is still alive. So the clock is ticking. They have to find her now.
Dr. Karnovich induces a trance. It's a very tense scene described in the source. He uses a ticking clock and a painting of a winter lake to put Phoebe under.
And she astral projects. She travels with the spirit of a dead friend of hers, Iris, to the location.
This astral projection bit, is she like flying over the landscape? What does she see?
It's described almost like a dream state, but with hyper-specific, actionable details. She identifies a specific street name, Pennsdale, in New Hampshire.
Oh.
She describes the kidnapper's work boots, his military-style flat-top haircut, and a very specific detail that turns out to be crucial. There are no numbers on the mailbox at the end of the driveway.
That is incredibly specific detail to pull out of a vision, and the FBI actually acts on it. They mobilize a massive tactical team based on this dream.
Which brings us to the rescue operation itself. And this is where we see Cara's personality really shine through.
They're supposed to be in a secure, bulletproof vehicle waiting miles away from the scene for safety.
But Cara's not having that.
No. She refuses to sit blindly in the back. She gets in the driver's seat and drives the car right up to the perimeter to a better vantage point so they can watch the takedown happen.
She's reckless, but she's also fiercely protective. She needs to see for herself that her sister's vision is real and that the operation is a success.
So the FBI breaches the house. They storm in. They find the basement. They find the cage Phoebe described.
It's empty.
This is the emotional low point of the whole sequence. Vernell, the agent, believes they're too late. The room smells of bleach and terror. That smell is really emphasized in the text. He thinks the killer has moved her, or worse.
But Phoebe doesn't give up. She gets out of the car and she physically enters the cage.
And she is just overwhelmed. She collapses. She's reliving all the trauma that happened in that small space. She hears the killer's voice threatening June. It's a visceral, horrific experience for her.
But in the middle of that trauma, she realizes something.
June is still in the room.
She guides Vernell to a locked steel rifle box in the corner of the basement. A big, heavy gun safe.
They have to cut the lock with huge bolt cutters. There's this sound, snap, snap. And inside, cramped and terrified but alive, is June Feldstein.
It's a rare victory for Phoebe, who usually only finds the dead.
But it comes at a massive cost to her. She absorbs all that pain. When they get her out of there, she's shaking, exhausted, practically catatonic from the experience.
And afterwards, when they're back in Maine, Phoebe finally opens up a little to Rowe. She confesses how lonely she is, despite having Cara.
And she gives Rowe a partial truth about what she does.
Right. She tells Rowe she's Homeland Security to try and explain why her face was on the news at the crime scene in New Hampshire.
It's a way for her to connect with Rowe, but she can't reveal the whole I talk to ghosts and see murders thing just yet. Not to Rowe, the ultimate skeptic.
Which brings us to the third circle of our Venn diagram, the romance. Because this is not a simple boy meets girl or even girl meets girl. This is a triangle.
A triangle involving identical twins, which is just so complicated.
It's incredibly messy. On one hand, you have Rowe and Cara. They're very similar in a lot of ways.
Both are cynical, both are guarded, both have been burned by life, and there is an undeniable spark there.
There's that scene where Cara brings Rowe to lunch, and the tension just boils over. They kiss in the hallway.
And it's described as passionate, immediate, raw chemistry.
But they both pull back almost immediately.
Yeah.
They agree to just forget it happened
Yeah.
because they're neighbors and it's complicated and Cara's sister is involved.
And Rose sees Cara as the safe option, doesn't she?
I think so. She sees Cara as the strong one, the non-broken sister. And Rowe is so terrified of getting hurt again after Marion that the tough, successful executive seems like the logical choice.
But then you have Rowe and Phoebe. And this is a much slower burn. It's not built on that fiery chemistry.
No, it's built on vulnerability.
And the key scene that illustrates this is the bath scene.
Which sounds provocative, but it's actually incredibly intimate in a completely non-sexual way.
Right. Phoebe invites Rowe to share a bath. They use the huge old-fashioned tub in Cara's room because she needs comfort after the trauma of the June Feldstein rescue.
She's exhausted. She's bone cold from the psychic energy. She just needs warmth and human contact.
And in the dark, candlelit bathroom, they just strip away all the pretenses.
Rowe admits that her career is failing, that she feels like a fraud, that she can't write.
And Phoebe admits how utterly lonely her secret life is, that even with Cara, she feels isolated.
And Rowe takes this huge leap of faith here. She decides to trust Phoebe with what she's discovered.
She tells her of the history of the house, she tells her about Juliet Baker, the letters, and the theory that the twins are blood relatives to the ghost.
And unlike how Rowe feared she might react, Phoebe's completely open to it. She doesn't laugh it off. It actually makes a strange kind of sense to her, because her grandmother was always so silent and secretive about their family history.
So Rowe is sitting there, essentially emotionally and literally naked with this beautiful, fragile woman, and she's realizing she's attracted to both sisters for completely different reasons.
Cara is the hot, dangerous, powerful executive. Phoebe is the beautiful, haunting mystery.
And the ultimate complication is that Cara is so fiercely protective. If Rowe hurts Phoebe, even accidentally, Cara will become an enemy.
But Rowe and Cara have that undeniable physical spark. It's a precarious emotional situation. Rowe is navigating this romantic minefield while knives are flying in her kitchen and ghosts are crying in her ballroom.
It's a lot to handle.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a lot of ground today. We've gone from a spooky kitchen in Maine all the way to a high-stakes FBI raid in New Hampshire.
Well, if we were to summarize the truth that's been revealed in these sources, I think there are 3 key points.
Okay.
First, Phoebe is a genuine asset to the FBI. She's not a fraud. She's a weapon, as they see it, that they're desperate to keep under wraps.
Second, Rowe's house is not just vaguely haunted. It's historically and actively haunted by a direct relative of the twins.
And third, These three women are now completely entangled in this complex web of secrets, trauma, and attraction, where the past, whether it's a ghost from 1912 or a family secret, is constantly and violently intruding on the present.
And I think the final provocative thought here, the thing to leave our listeners with, is about closure.
Right.
Phoebe mentions that her dead visitors, the murder victims, they usually only want to talk to her until their bodies are found. Once their families know what happened, there's closure, and they move on.
But Juliet Baker, she's been dead since 1912. Her body was found the next day, but she is still here. She's still throwing knives. She's still crying in the ballroom.
It raises the question. Since Rowe has now discovered the blood relation and the missing letters that changed the whole story of her death, is Rowe the key?
That's a great question. Phoebe can see and feel the ghost, but maybe Rowe, the researcher, the writer, is the only one who can actually solve the mystery and give Juliet peace.
And as Rowe gets closer to the truth of the dead, she is getting dangerously, inextricably closer to falling for the living twins. And that is a story that is clearly far from over.
Indeed. The intersection of the supernatural and the matters of the heart is always a dangerous place to be.
Well, that is all the time we have for on this deep dive into the mysterious world of dark dreamers. Thank you for listening, and try to stay warm out there.
And maybe keep your knives in a drawer.
Yeah.
Just in case.
That is some very good advice. See you next time.